The stream of experience flows endlessly, yet sometimes it feels caught in an eddy, swirling around the same unseen rock. Have you ever found yourself gazing out at the world, a deep sigh escaping your lips, wondering why, despite all your efforts, a subtle ache of dissatisfaction still lingers within your heart? Do you notice how, even in moments of joy, a shadow of expectation or a whisper of past pain can dim the light, leaving you feeling that something vital is still missing, just out of reach? There is an ancient whisper, a truth carried on the breath of sages, that points not to a multitude of flaws within you, nor to the cruelty of the world, but to a single, often overlooked mechanism within our own minds. It's a secret not in its concealment, but in its profound simplicity, a key that can unlock the very chains we unknowingly forge. This isn't about adding more, striving harder, or becoming someone different. It's about seeing clearly, perhaps for the first time, the nature of the current that pulls us under. Journey with me through these next few moments, and we will gently uncover this core reason, this quiet misunderstanding that once illuminated can shift the very ground of your being, allowing the waters of your life to flow freely with peace and profound clarity. Stay and discover how everything can change. Imagine a young woman named Anya living in a village nestled beside a vast, mist-covered mountain. Every villager revered the mountain, believing it held ancient spirits and unspoken wisdom. Anya, however, carried a peculiar burden. She believed the mountain was watching her, judging her every misstep, every unspoken fear. If her bread didn't rise, it was the mountain's disapproval. If a friendship faltered, it was a sign of her inadequacy reflected in the mountain's stony gaze. This wasn't a conscious, articulated thought always, but a persistent, underlying hum of anxiety. She would climb the lower slopes, not for the joy of the ascent or the beauty of the wildflowers, but to try and appease this invisible judge, to somehow prove her worth. She'd leave small offerings, a perfectly ripe fruit, a carefully woven garland, yet the feeling of being scrutinized, of not being quite good enough, never truly left her. Her days were tinged with a quiet desperation. She was kind, hardworking, and well-liked. Yet inside, she felt a constant striving, a need to perform perfectly to avoid the mountain's silent condemnation. The joy of a sunrise was dampened by the thought, is this bright enough for the mountain? The laughter of friends was shadowed by, am I truly worthy of this joy in the mountain's eyes? One day, an elderly monk, his face a roadmap of serene wrinkles, passed through the village. He saw Anya meticulously arranging stones on a small shrine, her brow furrowed with worry. He didn't speak of spirits or gods, but sat with her, simply observing the mountain and the changing light. After a long, comfortable silence, he picked up a smooth, gray stone. This stone, he said, his voice like the gentle rustle of leaves, is just a stone. The mountain is just the mountain. It stands, it breathes with the wind. The sun warms its peaks, the snows cool its crevices. It does not hold opinions, Anya. It simply is. Anya looked at him, puzzled. But the feeling? The judgment I sense? The monk smiled softly. The judgment, dear child, is not in the mountain, but in the echo of your own heart. The mountain is vast, and in its vastness, you have found a mirror for the doubts you carry within. You have painted your fears onto its canvas. She sat with his words, the mist on the peaks seeming to swirl with new meaning. The mountain hadn't changed. Its formidable presence was the same, but the story she had told herself about it, the meaning she had unknowingly projected onto it, was beginning to crumble. The core truth, she slowly realized, was not about appeasing an external judge, but understanding the nature of the judge she carried within. The mountain was just being a mountain. Her suffering arose from expecting it to be something else, something that validated or condemned her based on her own internal landscape. It was her interpretation, her added layer of meaning, that was the source of her unease. Anya's story, her mountain of perceived judgment, is a reflection of a universal human experience. The core reason we continue to suffer, the Buddhist secret that, once understood, changes everything, is this: we suffer not because of the raw experiences of life themselves, but because of our clinging to how we think they should or should not be. It is our attachment to specific outcomes, our craving for pleasure to last forever, and our aversion to pain or discomfort that forms the invisible chains. The Buddha taught this as ta, often translated as craving or thirst. It's a deep-seated urge. Think of it not as a simple desire. It's perfectly natural to desire warmth when you're cold. Ta is the clinging that comes after the desire. It's the insistence that warmth must always be there, the despair when it fades, the constant, anxious effort to secure it permanently, even though the nature of warmth, like all things, is to change. Our minds are like incredibly fertile gardens. If we aren't mindful, the seeds of clinging take root very quickly. This clinging manifests in various ways. There's clinging to pleasant sensations, that perfect cup of coffee, the flush of new love, a moment of success. We don't just enjoy them, we grasp at them, fearing their departure, trying to recreate them endlessly, and feeling a sense of lack when they inevitably pass. Then there's clinging through aversion to unpleasant sensations, physical pain, a difficult emotion like shame or regret, a challenging situation at work. We don't just acknowledge them, we fight them, resist them, build elaborate mental fortresses to keep them out. This very resistance, this no to reality, is a form of clinging to the idea that life shouldn't be this way. It's like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. The struggle itself becomes a source of immense suffering. Consider overthinking at night. An uncomfortable thought arises, perhaps a worry about the future or a regret about the past. The initial thought is just a thought, transient like a cloud. But then the clinging begins. We grab onto it, analyze it, feed it with more thoughts. What if this happens? Why did I do that? We are clinging to the need for certainty, for control, for a past that cannot be changed or a future that cannot be perfectly predicted. The mental noise becomes deafening. Shame is another powerful example. An experience occurs, and we label it shameful. The clinging here is to an image of ourselves as someone who shouldn't have such experiences, someone who should be perfect or different. We cling to this idealized self-image. And the gap between that image and our perceived reality creates profound suffering. The gentle invitation of Buddhist wisdom is to see this mechanism. It's not about blaming ourselves for clinging. It's as natural as breathing until we learn to breathe differently. The hope, the small shift in awareness, comes from recognizing that if clinging is the root, then non-clinging or letting go is the path to freedom. Not a letting go born of apathy, but a wise, compassionate release of our tight grip on how we demand life to be. Understanding the nature of clinging is the first ray of light. But how do we begin to loosen its grip in our daily lives? The path is not one of grand, heroic efforts, but of small, kind steps taken with gentle awareness. Here are a few practices you can begin today, each tied to a deeper teaching. 1. The practice of noticing the extra, mindful observation. This practice is rooted in vipassana or insight meditation, but can be applied informally anytime, anywhere. The core idea is to separate the raw experience from the story we add to it, the extra layer of clinging. When you feel a strong emotion, anxiety, frustration, even a sudden wave of sadness, pause for a moment. Instead of immediately getting lost in the narrative, this is terrible, it will never end, it's all my fault. Gently ask, what is the raw sensation? Is there a tightness in the chest? A quickening of breath? A thought pattern? Then notice the extra. Are you adding judgment? I shouldn't feel this. Are you projecting into the future? This will ruin my day. Are you resisting? I don't want this feeling. Simply notice this extra layer without judging yourself for it. The act of noticing creates a little space. You're not trying to force the feeling away, but to see it and your reaction to it more clearly. Internal reflection. This feeling is here, and these thoughts are my mind's attempt to make sense of it or push it away. May I observe this with kindness. This connects to anicca, impermanence. By observing, you'll start to see that both the raw sensation and your reactive thoughts are constantly changing, flowing. Nothing is as solid and permanent as clinging makes it seem. 2. The practice of the gentle and embracing what is. This practice helps with aversion, the resistance to what is presently occurring. It's about expanding your capacity to be with discomfort by acknowledging its presence without adding a but that implies rejection. When faced with a difficult situation or emotion, instead of this is painful, but I need to get rid of it, try shifting to this is painful and I can allow it to be here for a moment. For example, I feel anxious about this presentation and I can still breathe. I can still take the next small step. Or I feel regret about what I said and I can learn from this experience. And acknowledges the reality of the discomfort without fueling the struggle against it. It's a subtle shift from opposition to a kind of gentle allowing. Affirmation. May I meet this moment just as it is with an open heart. It is here and I am here with it. This fosters upekkha, equanimity, a balanced state of mind that can encounter life's ups and downs without being completely overthrown by them. 3. The practice of kind intention, watering seeds of non-clinging. Clinging often comes from a place of fear or perceived lack. This practice involves consciously cultivating intentions that counter these states. At the beginning of your day, or before a challenging activity, take a moment to set a kind intention related to non-clinging. Examples. Today, may I notice when I'm grasping and gently remind myself to loosen my grip. May I meet my experiences with curiosity rather than immediate judgment. May I offer myself compassion when I struggle. These aren't goals to achieve perfectly, but gentle reminders, like signposts pointing you back to a more spacious way of being. Internal reflection. With this intention, I am choosing a path of gentleness and awareness. This connects to metta, loving kindness. By directing this kindness and gentle intention towards your own patterns of mind, you create a supportive inner environment for change. Small, kind steps, repeated patiently, begin to retrain the mind away from habitual clinging. The shift from a life governed by clinging to one of greater freedom isn't usually a sudden, dramatic explosion of light. It's more like the gentle, persistent melting of ice under the spring sun. Slowly, quietly, what was once hard and resistant begins to soften, to flow. You begin to notice moments of quiet where once there was only the clamor of a mind desperately trying to control, to fix, to hold on. Remember the near constant hum of anxiety Anya experienced, the feeling that the mountain was judging her, as she began to understand that the judgment was her own projection, her own clinging to an idea of how she should be. The hum began to lessen. She didn't suddenly stop having insecure thoughts, but they no longer held the same power. She could see them arise, acknowledge them almost like familiar, sometimes bothersome visitors, and then let them pass without building a shrine to their importance. The shift often manifests as a change in your relationship to your thoughts and feelings. Where before, a wave of sadness might have pulled you under into a sea of despair, now you might find yourself able to stay on the shore, watching the wave arrive, feel its intensity, and then watch it recede. You are no longer the wave itself, but the vast, aware space in which the wave occurs. This is the essence of disidentification. Revisit those earlier pain points. The overthinking at night? You might still have busy thoughts, but the desperate urge to solve everything right now softens. You might find yourself able to say, the mind is active tonight. Let be. I will rest. The shame? It might still surface, but instead of being consumed by it, a gentle voice of compassion might arise. I am human. I make mistakes. This feeling is painful, but it does not define my entire worth. Control gives way to a compassionate embrace. Patience is paramount. There will be setbacks, days when the old habits of clinging feel stronger than ever. This is not failure. It's part of the path. The ice doesn't melt evenly. The invitation is to meet these moments not with harsh self-criticism, which is just another form of clinging to the idea of a perfect spiritual journey, but with renewed gentleness and the courage to begin again, right where you are. The shift is from a life of contraction, contracting around pleasure to keep it, contracting against pain to avoid it, to a life of expansion. Your heart, no longer so tightly guarded, begins to open. You find a greater capacity for joy that isn't dependent on everything being perfect, and a greater resilience in the face of sorrow, knowing that it too shall pass. Plant this insight deep within. My peace is not found in changing the world to fit my desires, but in changing my relationship to my desires themselves. The struggle wasn't with the world. It was with the insistence that the world conform to an internal blueprint. When that insistence softens, the world, just as it is, becomes a place of profound wonder and peace. We've journeyed together from the feeling of being caught in an unseen eddy, through Anya's story of the judging mountain, to the core understanding of clinging to as the singular root of so much of our suffering. We've explored gentle practices to loosen that grip and glimpsed the profound shift that occurs when we move from contraction to expansion, from control to compassion. Think back to Anya and her mountain. Initially, it was a symbol of her fear, her inadequacy, a canvas for her internal judge. But as her understanding deepened, as she stopped projecting her clinging onto its silent slopes, the mountain didn't disappear. Instead, its true nature could be seen. Majestic, steadfast, a silent witness to the unfolding of life, indifferent to her internal dramas yet, in its very being, an invitation to presence. Her relationship with it transformed from one of fear to one of quiet awe, perhaps even companionship. The mountain became a teacher, not by its judgment, but by its unwavering stillness. Similarly, the extra layer we add to our experiences, the judgments, the resistances, the desperate grasps, is like a mist that obscures the simple reality of our lives. When that mist begins to clear, even a little, we find that life itself, in its raw, unfiltered form, has a profound beauty and wisdom. The joy was always there, beneath the striving for more joy. The peace was always there, beneath the resistance to discomfort. Let's take a moment now, a calming breath together. Allow your body to soften. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath in and out. Like the mountain, simply be present. Repeat this intention silently or aloud if you wish. In the quiet space beyond my clinging, I meet life as it is. May I find peace in this allowing and hear the gentle wisdom of my own being. The journey of releasing the grip of clinging is lifelong, a path walked step by gentle step. There is no final arrival, only a deepening capacity to meet each moment with more awareness, more kindness, more freedom. The suffering was never a sign of your inherent brokenness, but simply a misunderstanding, a case of mistaken identity, believing ourselves to be the clinging rather than the awareness that can notice it. Thank you for sharing this space, this exploration. If this resonated, may it be a seed of peace in your day. Feel free to share your reflections in the comments below. Your journey can illuminate the path for others. With a soft heart and a wish for your well-being, farewell for now.